Get ready to be inspired as we dive into the journey of Angela Petrilli, an extremely versatile guitarist who's not only made her mark as a key player in Roses and Cigarettes, but has now taken center stage fronting her own band, Angela Petrilli and the Players. Today, we'll catch up on her incredible progress and gain some insights into achieving peak performance as a guitar player. Let's hear her story of resilience, growth, and my favorite, the sheer power of music. How about that? How'd that sound,
I
Angela?
love it. What a wonderful intro. Thank you, Lee. It is so good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Hey, this is our, we've talked other times, but this is our second interview on the podcast.
Yes, I believe we spoke right before COVID.
We did.
I was in New Orleans. I remember that interview. I was in New Orleans right before.
It doesn't feel like 3 years ago to me.
It's so funny. I was talking to some friends of mine the other day, and it feels like it's just a time warp. Like time was just lost.
It was really strange because you were kind of starting out on everything that we're going to talk about today, and I was starting new things with the podcast, and you were the big interview, the first interview I was going to be doing. I was like, this is, and then like the bottom just dropped out, and then so now here we are. Things are moving again, so it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Wonderful. So has anything happened since we met you the last time? Anything?
Gosh, couple things. Couple things. Yeah. Started a new band, Angela Petrilli and the Players. And during that time, through COVID, couldn't really gig out. Couldn't gig at all.
No. So
I spent a lot of that time writing the songs that are now on the CP. And yeah, it was a building of a new chapter is the way that I like to look at it. And, coming up with these songs and letting them really present themselves. I didn't, just like with anything, I don't like things that feel very forced. I'm like, okay, this is the new, all right, Angela Petrilli and the Players. I'm going to write some songs. Awesome. That was it. That's all. I gave myself just that. And the guys in the band are so wonderful, and they're all dear friends of mine. So it was just such a labor of love, and it was just so much fun. So that happened during COVID. We did our first big, presentation at Sunset Sound. We did this really cool video called Into the Vault. And we were invited by Sunset Sound to go and record a song that was originally recorded at the studio.
Awesome.
So there are three. So there's Studio A, Studio B, and Studio C. And we went into Studio 1, 2, and 3, actually 1, 2, and 3. So we went into Studio 2, which is, the Zeppelin room and the Rolling Stones room,
right.
and Ray LaMontagne too, which I found out afterwards, who's one of my favorites.
Right.
Like, oh my gosh, she recorded Trouble in here too. Janis Joplin, John Lennon, just like all these Van Halen, all these incredible people. And we kicked things off there, and it was so nice. And then we got to go back a little over a year later when I was ready with all the songs and the band was ready. And we went in there for one day. That's all we had. We had 12 hours. It's like, all right, we're going to cut 5 songs.
12.
And we cut it live. Most of it was live. We did a couple overdubs. My guitar solos were overdubbed, and the B3s were overdubbed, and that was about it. We did the vocals on another day, but we got about 85% of that EP done in a day.
You did the lead there after the songs.
We did the lead there. So awesome. We cut all of the bed tracks for all 5 songs. We cut in about 4.5 hours.
Okay.
So we're very well rehearsed, and it's like, hey, time is money.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I'm just so thankful to my band. They're just such great guys and such pros. We were very well rehearsed. So we walked in to the studio, and it's like, okay, there's no like, wait a second, do we go to the flat 7 chord here? Do we wait a measure and go to the flat 7 chord here? Yes. There were none of those questions. It was a matter of, okay, did we get the take?
Right.
And was the energy that we are trying to capture, did we get it? So those were the big things. I think the most takes of a song that we did was the voices, was the title track, just because that song was totally live. Like everything you're hearing. I didn't go back and overdub that solo. That was live in the room.
Awesome.
And we're all looking at each other. It was so much fun. I've always wanted to record that way. And it's like, gosh, we're in this beautiful, iconic studio. I want to do it like all my heroes did.
Right.
I want to record like that. and we had so much fun. But yeah, as far as the solos go, like we did the bed tracks. Bobby Victor, who plays keyboards, he did all of the B3 organ, and he's a master at that thing too. The way he was doing all the oh gosh, I can't even think of the word right now, but all the moves you need to do when you're playing that organ, he's just nailing it. And so he did all his overdubs, and then I went in and did my solos, and we were done. And we like called it a day. I'm like, wow, probably 85% of this EP was done today in 12 hours.
Did that just happen? Right. The one of those kind of things.
Yeah. Oh, it was fun. It was so cool. I remember going home that night and just, I mean, exhausted, but like in the best kind of way. And lying in bed and going, oh my gosh, these songs didn't exist this morning, and now they do.
That's right.
It was so cool.
That's awesome. So you started playing just some gigs around, trying to dip your toes into the water of fronting a band. One of the things we're going to talk about a lot today is fronting the band. Tell me a little bit about those gigs that led up. Are the people who ended up on the EP the same players that you were gigging around town with beforehand? Did you kind of work that band together, or did it turn into something different by the time you recorded?
For the most part, it was the same group of guys. So our first gig was February 2020, and we all know what happened later. So I was like, oh, okay. I was like ready.
Yeah.
All right, I'm playing out again. And then that happened. I'm like, okay, I need to reevaluate and maybe like really work on the songwriting end. But yeah, I called my buddy Bobby, who's keyboard, was phenomenal musician, one of the best musicians I have ever worked with. I mean, that goes for all of them. Brett Grossman, who co-produced the EP with me, is on bass. He mixed it as well. He's an incredibly talented mixer out here in LA in his studio at a Cosmic Voyager out here in LA. And original drummer Ted, who's a friend of mine who's played with Roses and Cigarettes and stuff. And so he was the original drummer. Just again, he's got a really cool, interesting feel. And it was just the four of us. And you know, it's like, okay, well, these songs need this and these songs need that. I'm like, all right, 4-piece is pretty cool. And then I started really jamming at this place called Ireland's 32. I've gone there for years, for about 10 years. It's a cool little Irish pub in Van Nuys, and they have these really great jam nights on Tuesdays. And the new guy who was hosting this, his name was Matt, and I'd never met him before. And from New York, you know, big New York Italian guy, and he's a great harmonica player and just so musical. And he's really fun to play with. When I did, you know, a couple of the 4-piece gigs, I'd be like, hey, Matt, you know, because we were friends by that time. Like, hey, you know, come and like sit in on a couple of songs. Like, he's just really fun to play with and just a good hang. And then before I know it, I'm like, oh, he's a member of the band now. It's kind of happened. He just moved in. It was great. And then Stephen Hawker, another buddy of mine, came on as the drummer and other co-producer and co-mixer on the EP. And my buddy Vic Vanacore is just a phenomenal drummer as well as percussionist. So that kind of, you know, created, okay, like the circle felt complete, and just, they're all such incredible musicians. They're all very intuitive musicians. And knowing that I was in this new role of being, you know, the front person, which was something kind of new. I did, you know, my previous band, Roses and Cigarettes, we were a duo, and we had a band behind us and you know, kind of split things, which is a little bit of a different energy, still a very beautiful energy, but a different one. And with these guys, they made it so much easier for me to step into that role, because it was still and I'm still learning. I'm still a student. I will always be. They made stepping into that role a lot easier, because they are so good at what they do. They're so intuitive. They're just great musicians. We can have such a seamless conversation. And I think that's why creating the EP and recording it in the time frame that we did was so easy, was because those guys are just so wonderful at what they do, and what best serves the song wins. And we all have that same mentality, and we all go into every gig, every session that way. And again, it's just such a gift to play with those guys.
Just tell us a little bit about how what you noticed right away when you started fronting the band, how your job had changed at that point. First and foremost, what I think of, just from the business perspective, I'm like, I want to make sure my guys are taken care of. Right.
They gotta get paid. And I got to make sure, even if that means, and part of being a leader, sometimes, when we pay our band members, sometimes we cannot pay ourselves. And that is something you have to be okay with. And that is something I am so okay with.
Yeah.
I just, first and foremost, I want to make sure my guys are taken care of. And that's just part of being a boss and being, the head person who's really running this whole thing and this whole vision is just making sure that your team, because this EP would not have sounded so incredibly amazing if it weren't for those guys. And I know that, and I'm so thankful for that, so grateful for that. So I just really want to make sure that I can take care of them. And yeah, as far as the role, it's interesting, like getting a lot of that energy from people who are watching the show, or they just really want to come up to you after the show and all of that. I was getting a lot more of that.
Right.
And, just kind of really making sure that every person that I speak to after a show, that I really give them their moment and I let them know that I appreciate them coming to the show. It really does mean a lot to me. And thank you for, spending a couple hours with us and enjoying the music and all of that. But it's really, I found when you front your own band is to really make sure that you really handpick your team, and that, you're going to be dealing with different personalities and making sure that, you create a really comfortable, communicative environment where people can feel free to be themselves.
Right.
And just create a really good collaborative environment. That is really important to me, because I'm not, okay, this is what I say and this is what goes, and my way or the highway. Like, I don't like doing that. I will, like, even with some of the songs, like I'll present the song and I'm like, hey, like, here's what's in my head as far as like production goes. And I'm hearing this kind of stuff and I'm hearing this and this and this, but hey, Bobby, like, as far as keys, like, what are you hearing? Or hey, Brett, when you're mixing this, why did you mix it like this? Like, I want to know. And Steven, when you're doing this sort of cool, like, come up with a really cool drum fill that does this or whatever. I really want them to be themselves too. It's like, because I hired you and I make music with you because I love your voice. So do that. You're
creating the environment that you would like to be in if you were the player.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Because, as musicians, we're hired because of our sound, and hopefully we're cool people to work with, which I think is a big thing. Like, don't be a jerk.
Right.
And that is important to me. It's like you're part of this band because I love your voice. So I want you to do that. If there's something super particular, like, hey, can you do this descending line with me? And let's see how it works. Mm-hmm. But again, it's just really creating a very collaborative, communicative environment. I want people to think that, oh my gosh, I'm scared to like give my opinion on this. And, it's like, I'm open to it. It's like, all right, well, let's try it and let's see if this works. And does it best serve the song? And a lot of times my ideas didn't best serve the song or the EP. It's like, gosh, I'm hearing this. And then we try it. I'm like, damn, it doesn't work. Okay. Well, but something that Matt does is really cool. Like with the song, with the voices, when I wrote it, I didn't have any intention of like a harmonica back and forth, like call and response. No, it didn't even come to mind. And then we did our first rehearsal on it. And I remember listening back, and I rarely keep audio of our rehearsals, but for some reason I recorded that one, and I was listening to it on the way home. I'm like, damn, that's pretty cool. I gotta keep that. That's really nice. And it's become such a cool moment in that song. Probably one of my favorite moments in that song is that back and forth between Matt and I. So
the high roller cool and thing. The voices, those are the two that I was listening. And here's the reason I bring it up, because like I said, we've played similar roles in bands, and so you're singing and you're playing rhythm, and you're playing rhythm in both of those songs call for fills in between the vocals. They just are. And you as the guitar player, I know you're dying to play some of those things, but now you're in the front. Right. So, and you have all these really great players around you who are, and I'm listening, I'm going, man, those fills are really good in here. And it's like, I bet it was, not that it was hard but I bet it was different for you to be the one to sit back and let some other people fill in those spaces.
That's what best served the song.
Yeah.
So it was a non-negotiable, like, yep, that saxophone part needs to be there. And again, props to my buddy Polly Sarah, who just knocked that one out of the park. It was great. I mean, he did that whole session in an hour. So it was like, yep, that's exactly what we were looking for. I mean, I wrote that tune and immediately thought of him. But I knew I wanted to do more of a rhythmic kind of, because I'm such a fan of fun rhythm playing. I go, I'll have my solo. It's fine. And as a guitar player, at least for me, it's like, I don't need a solo over everything. Well, I will solo when it's appropriate.
It's funny that you said that, because this week on the podcast, the last podcast that I recorded, of course, this is recorded in advance. So for you listening, it won't be the last one, but we've been talking about 3 words that get thrown around a lot that it's hard for people to put their finger on: groove, feel, and pocket. Playing in the pocket. I didn't tell you about this, but I know about you and rhythm. There's a lot going on there, right? Yes. So I'm curious, and so on that podcast, you get, especially when you play with a lot of different drummers and different bass players, they all have a different idea of what that means, right?
Absolutely.
And so
yes.
I went down and went through all these different things, and I put my finger on what they meant to me. But I'm curious about. It's not that I think that I'm the end all on that. I'm curious about other people, how you approach groove, feel, and pocket. Go for it.
I first, in my head, and this may seem surprising to some and maybe totally like on point with others when they hear me say this, but it is so true. I'm a drummer in my head.
Okay.
I don't really consider myself like a guitar player in my head. I don't. I think rhythm is the most important thing. Whether you are literally playing rhythm or you are soloing, you need to have a very, very, very good sense of rhythm. Because if you don't, if you're like, I'm just soloing, I don't need to know the time of the song. It's like, yeah, you do. You need to know it better than the person who's playing rhythm, I think. So for me, I always listen to the drummer first. And especially like if I'm coming into with a rehearsal with a band that I'm sitting in with, they'll start the song and I always ask, I'm like, let me just listen without me in the equation right now. And I will close my eyes and I will just listen and I will find my spot or my pocket of where I need to go. Cause I will listen. I'm like, okay, so the drummer's hitting the snare at this point. Okay. And the drummer's kind of doing these kind of paradiddle thing. Okay, cool. All right. And the bass player is doing this, which is locking in with the drummer here. So I'm really listening to that rhythm section. To me, a great band has everything to do with a great rhythm section. Right. I think. I really, really do. I think a semi-okay rhythm section doesn't make a great band. Like a great band, you need that foundation. So I listen to those 2 players and I listen to the relationship and that conversation that bass player and the drummer are having with one another. And I'm listening to that. And then I think step 2, okay, how can I elevate this without stepping on any toes?
Right.
How can I make this sparkle, or how can I make this lift? How can I make this fuller? Now I'm speaking from terms of being a rhythm guitar player in this scenario. So that's what I listen for. And I will sit and be quiet and just give myself a minute to just kind of get my bearings and to see like, okay, and the band works like this. Especially this is me coming in as you know, again, as a session or you know, as someone who's filling in on guitar for another band. So I really sit and try and find my place first. And then I will try what feels to me like the gut instinct of, okay, this is going to fill that pocket. And this is, again, going to be something that is complementary, that is going to lift the song, that best serves the song.
Right.
Let me try it. Because I'm like, in my head, this might work, but let's see. And that's something too. Don't be afraid if something that you try doesn't work. That's okay. You know that doesn't work. Right. So try something else. So this happens to me all the time. Like I'll try something like, nope, doesn't work. Okay, let me just sit and kind of get my bearings again. And let me try this idea. And then you go from there. To me, the importance of pocket in a rhythm player, I think is crucial. It's crucial is finding that sweet spot that doesn't step on toes, that serves the song, that lifts the song. That is where you want to be.
For me, forget the words, right? There's like 3 things that go on, right? So you've got finding your place. Okay, so if you're a guitar player, you're going to come in and you've got to figure out, well, where am I going to play that's not covering everything up that you said is supporting the song? Where are you going to find it? The second is what I call feel is, are they laying back? Are they on top of the, like where does,
right. You behind the beat, you ahead of it.
Right. Where are they? Is the bass drum right on, but is the snare laid back? Like, where is that? Because that's going to affect the choices that I'm going to make too.
1,000%.
And
absolutely.
Then the pocket, to me, this is what is playing those things. But, playing if they're laying back, playing it, or not even playing it, complementing that. So maybe depends on the song. Definitely, the whole thing depends on the song. But those three things: where you're going to play, where are you going to, like, puzzle pieces, where are you going to fit in, how are they matching that, and then making your part match the feel that they're putting. And once you get those three things, you're part of the rhythm section.
Oh, 100%.
It's not
absolutely.
It's not
absolutely.
a guitar fight anymore.
No, and that's something that is so important. I feel like can be overlooked by a lot of musicians. It's just, listen, you're part of a team,
right?
And even as like the leader of my, the leader of my band, I'm still part of the team.
Right.
I'm still part of the team. So I think it's a beautiful example you gave with High Roller. I didn't really want to solo a ton. I didn't want to do those leads. And also, too, I'm thinking of, okay, I got to play these songs live. Can I solo and sing lead on this at the same time? I don't know. Probably not.
BB King it and find the root, put your finger on it, and then, because that way you don't have to look.
Totally. But then if I do that, then, like, what's Matt going to do?
Right.
What's Paulie going to do? It's all part of a team ensemble. And also, too, I love playing rhythm on that song. It is so fun because then I get to do my cool, like, chord inversions and sing over it. Mm-hmm. It's so fun for me. That is a fun one to play live. I love playing that one.
My question was, how is playing all these songs live? How much fun is that? I mean, do these songs all translate live? I mean,
I'd like to think they do. Yeah. I like that. Well, it's super fun.
For you, that's the.
Oh yeah. It feels. They all feel very natural.
Good.
And that was important to me when we are recording these. That's something I'm always keeping in mind is, can these be replicated live?
Right.
And can they grow and kind of do their own thing too? Because again, you're going to have an evolution once you're like, we never play these songs exactly like we do on the record. Probably the one that we do the closest would be Red River and the Voices. Mm-hmm. Because of those solo sections, I'm like, I don't want those to go on for too long. Especially the voices. You're like, okay, this is kind of getting a little too Grateful Dead here. Okay, with the back and forth. Okay.
To me, that's the one that's got the slide and the Jimmy Page type stuff. That's the Houses of Holy style stuff.
That's the opener.
Yeah.
That is the opener of the shows, the opener of the EP. I like to really set a mood and tell a story. And I mean, that's why it's the first tune on the EP too, is to really set a mood. That's a fun one to play. Love those P90s.
You have a lot of different levels of gain, a lot of low gain sounds, and then when you come in for the lead and stuff like that. What's kind of your? Do you have like a real simple floorboard type thing, or is it pretty complicated?
It is very simple because I don't like very complicated things because I'm doing all of these jobs.
Right.
I'm leading the band. I got to like make sure, okay, this and this is taking care of this and that. I don't like to have a bunch of stuff.
Right.
I like. What are sounds that I like? What are pedals that are easy to use? If you have more than 5 buttons, I'm going to start to get a little nervous. So things that I know that will sound good, that will work right now. I've been doing a pretty sized down board. I got a TC electronic tuner because we all need them.
Yeah.
I have a 1976 Crybaby wah that I use that I put into true bypass, which is like the move. Oh my gosh, it makes things so much easier. It doesn't make the wah want to fight with the other pedals anymore. It's great. And then I put a new pot in it, so it sounds great. And then I go into an overdrive. I got a Prince of Tone Analog Man. Nice. That's my overdrive. And then I have a Phase 90 or 95, the little guy.
Yeah.
Well, like
those are awesome.
The
little skinny. Yeah,
so
those
good.
are great.
They're great. And then I have a delay. I have the carbon copy. That's it.
So you're using the volume on your guitar a lot for those different gains of sound. That's what I was hearing.
Yes.
I was hearing a lot.
I like that. I like having that option because it's right there. And I don't have a volume pedal because guess what? You have one connected to your guitar.
Right. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. And it sounds like you've got 15 different tones. And if that's the rig that you use when you recorded, it worked out. That volume worked really. Do you play with the tone knobs at all, or you just usually leave them up?
I put them to 10 and call it a day. Yeah. Especially, to me, it's like, I just, that's how I was taught. My guitar teacher taught me, he's like, put it at 10, Les Paul, Strat, Telly, whatever. Put it at 10 and done.
What's your process with songwriting? Did you have one? Or is it different every time? It's
kind of different every time. What I found really interesting, and it was something that I practiced because I was uncomfortable with it and I wanted to get better at it. I'm like, okay, you're going to do lyrics first.
Oh, that's different for a guitar. Yeah.
That's so different for a guitar player. I'm like, you're going to do lyrics first. Let's see how this goes. And again, I said a couple moments ago, I'm not someone who likes to force things. So with the voices, it was a very stream of consciousness thing where the lyrics showed up and I'm like, ooh, this is a cool theme. I'm going to follow this. Da, 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 da. And within 5 minutes, the lyrics were done. And I'm like, wow, those are some very interesting, perhaps a little dark.
Right.
And it's not a happy-go-lucky kind of song. And I looked at those lyrics and thought, okay, what's the story I want to tell here? Musically, because the lyrics are done. So musically, what do I want to do? I knew immediately, well, this is an important story that needs to be told. I don't want a lot of chords around it. That was first and foremost. That song is 4 chords. It's A to G and then C to D. That's it. There's not even in a song that is so sad and depressing. There is no minor chord in it. There's no minor chord in it. So, and when I was kind of fooling around with the vibe, like I had the beat in my head going back to me being a drummer. I knew that I wanted it to be dynamic because the lyrics told me so. Okay, you have this optimist, pessimist. It's that back and forth between, as I like to say, like the angel and devil on the shoulder. Right. That's that song, is that conversation between those two things, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I knew it was like, well, if that's a story that needs to be told, then the dynamics musically need to match that. Because if it's all like big and in your face or all sad and like low, it's not going to work. So the dynamics were a big thing. And I'm a huge fan of dynamics. I love it. It's so fun to listen to. I think a band that does a beautiful job of that is Government Mule. I think Warren Haynes is just such a master of that. Just love him so much. I love that band. Great. One of my favorites. But yeah, that for that song, it happened that way. With Red River too. Was it verses first or lyrics first? It might have been the riff, actually. Yes, that was the guitar riff first. I had my dobro in open C for a reason I cannot tell you, but it was in open C for some reason. And I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. That like, that's a little interesting interval. Let's see what the story says here. And then the first lyrics were, and I listened to that and repeat. And I just got myself in a very calm, very open space. And I'm like, okay, if there are any words that want to come to me just to kind of kick things off, like I am open. So like, have at it. And then Red River, Send Me to My Hallowed Grave. I'm like, oof. Okay,
there you go.
It's kind of sad too. let's go with this. I'm a big fan of reading. I love to, I read like 3 or 4 books at the same time. I just can't get enough. I love to read. And I remember the Iliad and the Odyssey were really fun to read when I was in high school, and I've reread them since. And that was the first thing that came to me. Ooh, what an interesting perspective, singing from the perspective of one of those soldiers.
Right.
This is cool. Let me go with this and tell this story this way. It doesn't have a verse. It has a verse, but it doesn't really have a chorus, and it doesn't really have a bridge. I wanted it to feel uneasy.
Yeah.
Because the story that's being told is very uneasy.
Yeah. So
I didn't want, it feels like a prelude in a lot of ways. And I didn't want verse, chorus, bridge, chorus out. I didn't want that. I wanted to set a tone. And then, you're almost like 2 minutes in, and then the big riff comes in, and then the solo and all of that stuff. But I wanted it to feel uneasy, like you're on a journey, and you're like literally almost feeling like those soldiers rowing that boat. I wanted that sort of feel in that song. And then something like High Roller, I was listening to a lot of Taj Mahal, and I'm like, we need something fun because these two are really depressing. We need something fun. same with Slapjack. That was actually the first one written.
One of the things that I wanted to ask you about, and I actually was reading this on your About page at AngelaPetrilliMusic.com that you should all go over to and see, was the story about Ghost Inside a Frame.
Yes.
And I thought that was fantastic. And I was wondering if you'd share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So my previous band, Roses and Cigarettes, my bandmate was named Jenny Pagliaro. And she was just such a powerhouse. And I like to consider her like my life's greatest teacher. I learned a lot from that lady. And she was just such a dear friend and sister to me. And I miss her every day. And she fought breast cancer like the toughest person I've ever known, and she died in March 2019. And she's a big inspiration to me, and in a lot of ways I carry her with me in every musical endeavor that I do, and I make sure that she's involved, although I know she's watching, wherever she is. I know she's watching, but I always like to just kind of carry her in my heart whenever I'm playing. And I was in Austin, and I was there just playing some shows. I have an awesome pickup band in Austin. They're called The Capitol. They're really, really awesome. And anytime I'm down there, I love to play with those guys. They're great. And I was, just watching some stupid show on like Netflix. I don't know, one of the dating shows. Okay. I just have like noise on. And I'm sure I was like digesting like 27 pounds of, barbecue.
Right.
So I'm
well, you're in
like
Austin.
comatose.
Right. That's what you do.
Yeah, that's what you do in Austin. You just eat a lot of barbecue every day. That's what I do. It's fun. And so I remember very soon after Jenny had died, I was talking with my mom, and she had a dear friend die young too. And she said, it's the weirdest thing is when you look at pictures and you change, but they stay the same.
Right.
And that moved me so deeply. It was a very moving thing. And I remember immediately going to my little notebook where I write, my lyrics and like thoughts and like song ideas. I'll just kind of just to have it there. I'm not someone who likes to type stuff. I like to physically write things. Yeah. Like all of my lyrics were physically written. Right. I like to feel them physically remove themselves from my body. Like I like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember writing that comment in my notebook. This was in 2019. And for years I would try to come up with a song around that, and just nothing worked. I'm like, oh, that sounds stupid. I'm like, no, I don't like this. Like, that doesn't feel real to me.
Right.
And it wasn't until I was in Austin, just like, I don't know. I can't really even explain it. I was just there and just open, I guess. And I had turned to that page and I laughed and I go, I have been looking at this the wrong way. Right. I am singing from my perspective. That is not what this song needs. It is from the perspective of the person who has died. That. And once that ding, then everything came to place. I wrote those lyrics in 10 minutes. It just poured out. I even cut some. There were 2 other verses that I cut out because I had it was just this. I feel like I tapped into something and it came out and it left. And then another 10 minutes, I did the chords.
Wow.
It was one of those moments you hear, and I'm like, gosh, that'll never happen to me. You hear from like folks like Bob Dylan or, other songwriters, John Lennon and stuff. And like, whoa. I remember after it happened, I cried. Yeah. It was such an emotional release. I'm like, okay, this needs to be on the next EP. Like it was a gift.
It hit me just reading it on your About page. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I said, I need to go and listen to that song again.
Yeah.
And then when I listened to the song again, and then it hit me again that exactly what you said, that this is from the other perspective right here. Hit me again with like that. And I thought, what a great song to end the EP.
I knew immediately once it was written that it had to go on that EP. It was not one I was going to hold on to very long. Like, this is a story that needs to be told. I know for me, it came from obviously a very personal place. And I said, but death is something that's universal. It comes for all of us, and we've all dealt with it. And if we haven't yet, we're going to deal with it because it's coming. Yeah. And I knew it would be a very universal thing. And Lee, I get messages about that song almost every day from people saying, "Oh my gosh, thank you for finding the words." It's a very moving thing, and I think that's when music. So I think sometimes we can get caught up and maybe get a little jaded on, oh my gosh, I gotta do this gig and I gotta like load all my stuff, and you know. But it's moments like that. It's like, yeah, like this is such a gift that we get to make music with a box with strings on it and help people. That's a beautiful thing. So every time I hear that song, it's difficult for me to play live. Yeah. Emotionally, that's a tough one. Like I can't play that one at every show. I can't do it. So I have to really be choosy on which shows I play it at, because it's still hard for me.
Certain frames of mind you might want to.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I always kind of like to warn everybody. I'm like, listen, this one's really sad, so I'm just letting you know.
Go into the EP a little bit. I'm hearing the Meters. I'm hearing Led Zeppelin. I'm hearing just, and your lead guitar is you. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm hearing a really good mix of styles and when you thought about what it was going to be, of course you did, ahead of time. You have this idea of what the EP is going to be and what it's going to, and what's the vibe of it, and how did the way it turned out match up to what you had thought it was going to be?
I think it turned out better. I really do. I think it turned out better because I had my ideas, and again, just a testament to the players. They saw my vision, and they're like, "We're going to do whatever we can to get it to how it sounds in your head," while still just they just did such an amazing job. I'm just so grateful. I'm just so grateful to them. It turned out great. Like I had these ideas and they're like, all right, so that's your idea. Let me do it in this way. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. And just the sound of Sunset Sound, having that as the foundation made this so easy. I mean, you better believe all those echo chambers, we used them, and again, props to like Jeff Neal, who engineered this session, freaking knocked it out of the park. Any cool microphones we wanted to use, we got them because we were the only ones in that entire complex that day.
Wow.
Because they were repaving the parking lot. So we were the only ones in there. It was wonderful. Really grateful.
One of the things I did during the COVID lockdown is watch all of those Sunset Sound. They came out with all these YouTube videos, and they had ones about Prince, and they had ones about, I guess they were just taking the extra time that they have and getting to projects that they wanted to immortalize in time. So what was do you have anything you can share just about hanging out in there? Anything you noticed that maybe the regular person who doesn't even get to California?
We were all prepared and stuff, and you better believe we worked our butts off to make sure we hit all our timelines and all of that. And I'm a planner, and me and the guys made sure okay, so-and-so shows up here and this is how much time we're going to have for this and how much time for this. I made sure to just sit and be quiet in there. I gave myself a moment. I'm like, cool. Do you realize that was the Studio 2 was the last place where the Beatles were all together. Yeah. That was the last place in that room. What a trip.
Yeah.
And just these iconic albums that I love were created there, and that I get to put, and we collectively as the players get to put our stamp on these walls. What a gift to be here. I really wanted to soak that in, because I don't know if I'll ever get to do this again. So I wanted to be really present in that moment of, oh my gosh, what a gift to be here. That was really cool. And just walking around, and you can't help but feel creative in there. Yeah. It was easy. Yeah. And that studio was like another member of the band. Because it gave, if you give, you really give in that room, it gives you back a lot more. Just even the energy of all those people, you feel it too. You can't help but feel it in there. It was so cool to record in there.
Did you have to settle in? Was there a lot of jitters at first?
No, but there wasn't. We were lucky enough too. And those of you who are listening, who are thinking about recording, if you can get in there the day before and load in all your stuff and get all your tones dialed in, all you got to do is walk in the next day and just play. So that was nice. So we recorded on a Saturday. So that Friday night we went in, and I mean, I got to dial in tones. I got to set up all my stuff. It was great, so that I can just go in the next day and just work and get it done and do a great job and do my best. And all of us, that was cool to be able to do that. So I probably would have been a little more nervous if I have to go and like set up all my stuff, but I didn't. So we had that Friday night to just go and get all the mics set up and, you know, all of that. So that was great. But I wasn't nervous because we were so prepared. So there was really nothing to be nervous about.
Did you set up like a live room? I mean, did you have like baffles, everybody in the same room, or was your amp in another room?
Amps were in another room. Okay. My amps. So I was going through 3 different amps. I was going through a Supro. I was going through a Vibraverb with the JBL speaker. I think it's heavy, but man, it sounds so good. That's like the main guitar on Ghost Inside a Frame. You can really hear those like beautiful cleans. Oh, such a great amp. And yeah, it was a 64 reissue hand wire. It's great. And what was the other one I went through? I went through Mesa Boogie as well, Fillmore 25. So those were my 3. Those were in a separate room. And then Brett's bass, he was in a separate room, or as far as like his amp and stuff. And I think he did like a thing where he's going through the board too. I can't remember. So the 4 of us, Bobby on keys, Steven on drums, myself on guitar, and Brett on bass, we were all in the main room. So we had Matt, because he plays harmonica, he was isolated. Right. But what was great is that there was a huge, you know, window where he could see through. So it felt like he was there with us. He was just ISO'd, and he was going through amps as well. He's got a cool twin that he uses, and a really cool little Bronco. And he grew up in the same town as Joe Bonamassa. He actually bought that Bronco from Joe Bonamassa's dad, which is like kind of cool. So that was there too. It sounded great. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a wonderful experience having that live where we're looking at each other, and especially with the tune, the voices. Cause I said, guys, like, I know we're super prepared and all this stuff. I go, the solo, I just want, like, we'll feel it. We'll feel it when it's the one, and we'll all read each other. It was fun. If I had to say, if there was one moment where I was a little nervous, it was probably that song. Because in my head, I knew what had to happen. It was just a matter of getting it. Right. And we did. You sung guide vocals in that room? Yes. Yeah. So we came prepared. We gave them just like we gave Jeff, who was behind the board, in there, just like a basic, okay, you know, here's verse, here's chorus. So all those kind of stems of like the demo he had. Yeah. So that was easy. So I'm hearing myself, you know, doing a demo vocal over all this. And awesome. Yeah, made things easy. Being prepared made this probably the easiest recording experience I've ever had. Being as prepared as we were. You mean you didn't just come in and throw beer cans on the floor like Van Halen those pictures of Van Halen? Nope. Listen, when you got someone else paying for the studio, it is a different thing. Yeah. You know, I was so fortunate. I did a Kickstarter and got this whole EP funded. Awesome. And, you know, I'm thinking, okay, I owe it not only to myself, but everyone who contributed. Like, we're going to make the most out of every cent. Awesome. You know, and I think we did. That's fantastic. I feel like I was there. Good. You can literally, like, I remember when we got those tracks back before, you know, we went to mixing and all that stuff, and we were just listening back that next day, like, oh my gosh, you could smell the studio on these songs. And that's when I knew, like, this is going to be really special. What about guitars interesting you now? Is there anything, what you know, when you sit down to play or you get online and look up guitar stuff, what's got you interested? I have been really delving into a lot of Jimmy Page, probably deeper than I ever have before. And really listening to those parts. Like, I was, you know, learning the Rover. I'm like, I need to learn this song. How have I not learned this song before? And listening to how beautiful that song is. Like, it's so heavy, but it's so beautiful. That F sharp, the E minor, that is so beautiful. That song is so well composed. It's so great. I mean, amongst so many other songs that they did. So I've been really doing a deep dive into Jimmy Page these days, and a deep dive into David Gilmour as well. One of my guitar students, he reached out to me about 2 years ago, and he goes, "Hey," he's like, I've been playing for a while. Would you mind if we did our lessons and we only learned David Gilmour solos?" I'm like, yes, I'm in. Let's do it. And it's funny. I have noticed an osmosis in the way that I have approached solos these days. I'm like, oh yeah, that was kind of a Gilmour-y thing, but it sounds like me. It's really sounding human. That has been my big study and my big thing that I've been doing lately is how can I make this sound human? And how can I make the notes that I play really mean something? And sometimes it's the notes you don't play that make it meaningful. So I try not to, I really, again, just going back to that theme of what's going to best serve the song.
Right.
But yeah, as far as guitar gear goes, I've just really been back and forth between my Strat and Les Paul these days. I just love them.
Who's winning?
I just love them. I mean, I played my Strat at my last gig, so maybe the Strat's like kind of winning right now, but they're both, it's apples and oranges. It's a tool.
Yeah.
But man, that Les Paul, it makes me play differently.
Yeah.
It makes me play differently than I do on my Strat. I hear music differently when I play my Les Paul.
I've always been a Strat player. But when I played with E.G. Kite, because she was playing a Strat, I just went and got a Les Paul special. I just wanted something just different that I could take on the road, not worry about, something like that. And then I kept playing it. I kept going, what's going on here? Because when I was younger, I had a fretless Wonder. It was like an 80 fretless Wonder, and it was so heavy. And I hadn't discovered beer yet. I was probably, I was super skinny, right? And so by the end of the night, I'm down here like this. So I kind of got away from those and just been Strat for years. And what I know for me, how I play different. What did you see in your playing when you play Les Pauls that comes out differently?
Just the sustain. I remember the first couple notes I played on it with the band. I'm like, oh my God, this is great. Yeah. It is a little, it's a little heavier. So that took a little getting used to because I'm so used to the belly cut on a Strat, something that's a little bit lighter. I do have to be a little bit more delicate with it just because the whole headstock thing kind of freaks me out. Yeah. So I am, mindful. But man, the way I play chords and the way I play rhythm is different. On that guitar. The way that I solo is different. So I have an R9 and it's 8.5, 8.6. Yeah. So the weight is good. I knew I didn't want anything heavier than 9 because then I knew I'd be miserable and my chiropractor would just yell at me. So I just didn't feel like getting yelled at. And so I got a bass strap for it too, which is about 4.5 inches wide. Yeah. That's what I did. So my back doesn't hurt when I play it, which is great. Even 4-hour gigs. There's some gigs that I do at a local pub around here where I'll play because it's a classic rock cover band that I'm in. And, I use the wider strap and my back does not hurt the next day.
They're amazing, aren't they?
They really are. They really are. But it's that sound. 'Cause I'm a huge fan of, Kossoff and obviously Jimmy Page and Warren Haynes. And those guys are big Les Paul players. Yeah. So when you play those songs through a Les Paul, it was like rediscovering those songs again. I'm like, oh, that's the tone.
That's it.
Because Strats are great. Strats are great. And they're very versatile. But man, when you play a Les Paul song on a Les Paul, it's just, it's perfection.
Let's share a memory. What's one memory that you have that you think the audience could get something for? We got a whole bunch of guitar players listening to it.
I would say as far as a memory and something that you can do, I always go back, and every gig I think of this, is my guitar teacher. What he would do is, we would meet up every week and, okay, here's our scales and, think about this when you're playing rhythm and all those things. He taught me so much great stuff. I still talk to him all the time.
Awesome.
He would bring me to open mics and he's like, all right, all this stuff that we have learned, now we're going to apply it. And you're going to play in a real life setting. He always told me, he goes, don't just play in your room. He would always say that. He's like, everybody's a rock star in their bedroom. Yeah. Go out and play and meet people. And then from there, you can see, okay, these are the things I do great. And these are the things I need to work on. It is a really good way to test ooh, okay, these are some things that I should work on in my technique, or these are things I should listen for when I'm playing in a band. Maybe I'm not being, maybe I'm being a great team member, maybe not so much. So it allows you to really, it's important. Music is a community action. In a lot of ways, music is a verb. It's like something you need to do. Yeah. Don't be afraid to mess up if you're on stage. Oh my gosh, I messed up. I mess up all the time. I messed up a bunch when I would play at those, those open mics. It was always people I never knew. It was always a different rotating, band. We know that you know this. You've done them too. You know this. Yeah. And there were some things that I did great, and there were some things that I didn't. But man, those kind of gigs built my ear.
Yeah.
They allowed me to really learn what it is to be a team member in a band. And to really listen. Oh, okay, I need to, when he says this is what you got to do when you solo, like that's what you got to do, and you got to listen. That's right. But it builds a lot of things. So I would say take that leap of faith for those of you who play in your bedroom and, oh my gosh, I'm just scared to play out. Just do it. Musicians, I have to say, find your people and go and meet them. Don't be afraid to meet other musicians. We're nice, I promise. We're nice. We're generally. We've met some not so nice ones, but generally people are really cool and like people want to help you.
Yeah.
So go and find your tribe and go and play and don't be afraid to mess up. You're going to learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be afraid if you go and you're playing in a band and you're hopping on stage and you solo and maybe it wasn't as great as you wanted it to be. Go home and practice and then come back and do it again. And you will be so surprised how much that can build your confidence. It's important to play with others. Don't just play in your bedroom. Play with others. Go and explore that craft.
When people are at home and they're practicing all the time in their bedroom, oh, I couldn't do that, or I don't want to. It's all the fear stuff goes into it, though. You have to realize that when you are mid-song, time is different.
Yes.
I could live.
So true.
I could live mid-song. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like there was the Nexus was old Star Trek thing, right? Where you're kind of out, you've slipped out of time, and it's kind of like that. It's powerful. You're taking people. Angela starts a song, and those people trust that she's going to take her from one point in time to another point in time, and you have to carry those people through. But you don't have time to think when you're mid-song. When you're at home, you can think about all sorts of junk. You know what I mean? Like, you can worry about this. So you can't worry. It's the drummer goes 1, 2, ready, go. And look at you. Your eyes just got real wide. You're like, are we starting? Are we starting?
Right.
Right. So how about that as a lead now, leading the band? How much time do you have to think mid-song?
Some of the songs we keep very like, oh, we're going to play them like this, as they were recorded, at least the time frame of it. But also too, I don't like to play them exactly like the record because then you could just go home and listen to it.
Right.
So when people come to a show, I'm like, well, I'm going to give you a show. We're going to extend some stuff. Like you better believe like Slapjack.
Right.
That is not a 2-minute, 57-second song when we play it live. Sometimes it's a little, it's easily twice as long when we play it live because like, all right, Matt's going to do a thing. And I have a solo in that when we play it live, Bobby goes off and does stuff too. So we extend that high roller. We extend too, because it so calls for it at the end from that C to that E flat, B flat. Like it's so fun to jam with that. And something else that I like to do too is if we're lucky enough and we're playing at a club and the band that's playing after us has like a horn section or something. And I'll introduce myself like, hey, I'm Angela, playing this band. We're playing before you guys. I got this song in C that we close with. You want to hop on stage with us? Oh, I do it all the time.
Yeah.
And they all say yes. Because again, music is a verb. It is like a community thing. And like, what a cool thing. Like last time it was a band that was from Texas. And, I go, hey man, like you're a great trumpet player. You want to sit in with us on this last one? Yeah. And it was great. And that's how you meet people and you make connections and you get to have this musical experience with someone you've never had a musical conversation with before.
Yeah.
So I like to change things up, but still stay true to, the tune and all of that. But it's fun. But do I find myself thinking a lot? I find myself very present in the moment because of the fantastic band I have.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do my best to be a leader. I'm still learning, but I do my very best to be a good leader.
Where can people go and see you lead?
Yes. Well, you can go to my website, angelapetrillimusic.com. I got a show in December. I can't say when, but there's a December show in LA, and we may or may not have a bunch of vinyl at this particular show. So I will leave you with that. So there will be a vinyl release show in December, date to be announced. We're very excited about it. We're going to have some special guests too, which I'm very excited about. Those of you who watch the Norman's channel, you may recognize a few guests. But yeah, I'm just, again, a perpetual student of the craft. I am constantly humbled and just so gratified by what we get to do and the people we get to meet, like yourself. And like, I've got to meet so many great people doing this. I just live such a grateful life. And it's just, I don't know. I'm just very thankful to be alive and get to do this.
Well,
as cheesy as that sounds, it's so true.
I'm thankful that you've come back. This was so much fun.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're bringing this back. I'm really happy.
Yeah.
Happy about it.
Yeah. I get a lot out of it. I get tired of listening to myself talk all the time. I want to learn stuff too,
Absolutely. Again, just being a perpetual student. We're never masters of anything. When someone's like, oh, you're a master guitar player. I'm like, no, not. I am a student.
One day I'll be.
It's like, I am a student. I love learning. And there's always something to learn, always different perspectives. That's why when you play with other people, oh my gosh, getting different perspectives of music, it is such a gift. It's only going to make you better. Be the worst player in your band.
That's right. And don't be afraid to play in a band that's players that may be older than you or younger than you. Learn something.
Absolutely.
If you're the older person playing in a younger band, you're going to learn stuff you don't think you will. You will. You will learn.
Oh my gosh. I have been the youngster by like 30 years sometimes in a band.
Yeah.
But man, you come out learning a lot.
And if you want to learn more from Angela, there's a riff. Tell them about Riff Rundown. Yeah.
Every Saturday on my YouTube channel, I run through a song live and we just run through it. Some episodes are an hour, some episodes are a half hour. And I do my best to get you in a good place and learning a song quickly and having fun. So you can go and play, instead of playing in your room, you can go and play with other people and you can play these songs. So it's a blast. Yeah. And I do that with my friends at Fitchman Transducers in lovely Andover, Massachusetts. So it's been a blast. It's been a blast. And again, just very, very grateful for all the cool opportunities.
Also Petrilli's Picks.
Yes.
With Norman's Rare Guitars? Yes,
Norman's Rare Guitars. So I filmed like 4 Guitar of the Days with Martin Guitars on Tuesday. Awesome. So there's going to be a bunch of episodes. I'm going back on Tuesday too to see Norm and the crew. Yeah, so many great guitars. Talk about not having your wallet with you.
That's right.
And your credit card.
That's difficult. I don't know how I do it. Yeah.
I know. And it's
Here, try this one. No, don't show me that. No.
Norm does that to me all the time. Look, there is a video of it and you guys can check it out on YouTube, but it was a 1944 D28. Oh, it was unbelievable. On Tuesday, I played a 1933 Martin. That was just like so amazing. It was beautiful. Yeah, I have to pinch myself. Like, you're going to let me play these guitars? You cool with that? Oh, yeah. Do it. It's so cool.
My last question is when you're coming back. When are we going to do this again?
Oh, my gosh. You call me anytime. Call me anytime. It's always fun chatting music with you. And
well, I'll tell you what.
All that good stuff.
Yeah, we'll be checking back in when you've got some more things you want them to know about.
Yes. Yeah, some cool stuff happening in 2024 that I can't talk about yet. Awesome. But I'm very excited about. Yeah.
Thank you, Angela Petrilli.
Thank you, Lee. You're doing good things. This podcast you got going, I think, is fantastic. You're helping a lot of people.
Oh, thank you. Oh, shucks. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Angela.
All right. Take care, Lee. Thanks for having me.